focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert Webb.
Hey, what's happening? Black Focus Radio, the Tuesday edition, right here on joynetradio.com. We're here every day, Monday through Friday on joynetradio.com. You know what we like to say. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. Talk about a lot of things today. We're certainly going to talk about the protest that's going on right now, the impromptu protest that is going on downtown as it relates to the school district. And give you some updates on what's going on with there. Angela Davis was in town this morning over at Philander. We efforted to try to get her on the show today, but she didn't. Her schedule wouldn't allow her to do that, but that's cool. We're hoping that people like Philander and others will begin to use us as an outlet. So when they've got guests coming to town, Philander and UAPB and the like, that you can get some free publicity by getting those people on this show or getting them on the station somehow or another. Or pre-publicity, even before they get in town, have them to contact us so that we can get them on the air. So she was in town. Of course, we'll give you some updates on the protest, as I said earlier, that's happening at the Doubletree. I understand that there has been a bit of controversy already as it relates to it, and we'll get into that this morning as well. As a matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and jump out here and read my tease to you today so you'll know what we're going to be talking about. Let's see, a Black Feud is over and what we could learn from that example. We're going to talk about that today. I mean, it was huge. That for those of you who may or may not know what I'm talking about, so I'll expound on that here in just a little bit. So stick and stay for that. Also, Black women entrepreneurs are making it happen. Is this the force we need to spur Black economic empowerment? That's the question. One thing I can say about sisters, most times they support one another. So we'll get into that. And the piece of crap judge gives a man a criminal record for missing jury duty. Planned to talk about this late last week and didn't get it. I definitely want to try to get that up and on the show today. And speaking of the bench, Judge Tammy Kemp speaks, and she's full of it. No offense to my Christian brothers and sisters. All right. What about separation of church and state? We'll get all of that in as well. Also want to remind you all that the podcasts are up and flowing out on your available podcast platform. Tanya likes me to say social media. That doesn't mean social media because social media is Facebook and Instagram and things of that nature. All of it is social media per se. But the podcasts are a specific entity that we need to point people to. So do me a favor and go out to your prospective podcast platform and download the podcast. Share it with your friends. If you missed the show, you know, for a long time, a lot of people were saying, oh, man, I didn't catch the show, man. Where can I? You got a podcast? Well, we now have a podcast, and it's on Apple, it's on Google. Man, it's even been sent to some podcasts that I didn't even know existed, according to this platform that I'm using. So do me a favor, go out and download the podcast, and make sure you share it with your friends and neighbors. Also, go out to YouTube and be sure to like me on YouTube. if you don't mind, like the show and subscribe. We are trying to get 1,000 subscribers. We ain't even got 100 yet, y'all. What y'all doing, man? Y'all get on out there and just hit the subscribe button for me. And be sure to like it on Facebook as well. All right. So we got a ton of stuff to talk about today. And where should I start? And I guess I'll start like I do every day, with Black Facts.
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
Hey, what's up, Robert? How you doing? Appreciate you joining us. By the way, Robert Webb is out today, and he'll probably be out tomorrow. So it's just me. So you've got time to call me up and talk to me today. If you don't mind, you certainly can do that. I'd love to hear from you. Just call me up and let's talk about some of the things that are going on in our community. And so today, you know, there are a lot of ways that we can do Black Facts. In fact, there are tons of ways we can do Black Facts. But I think in light of what's going on in the community, what's going on in the nation as it relates to the Amber Geiger trial, I thought this would be an important Black fact to do. And it relates to Mamie Till. You know, she's the mother of Emmett Till. You know, the young black boy who, in some sense, was treated like Botham Jean. He was in his home. He was accused of whistling at a white woman. He, and along with his cousin, who has since passed away, just I think within the last year, whom we've had on Black Focus Radio, were in their home sleeping when the home was invaded by white terrorists. And he was subsequently taken out of his home, beaten beyond recognition, and murdered. Nobody spent any time in jail for that. So I thought it was interesting because we're going to talk about, and I'm going to let you hear for yourself, the response from Judge Tammy Kemp. But I thought this piece was important to read today because we need to understand that black people forgiving white racism is our sickness. Hello? In the case of Botham Jean, a court judge not only gave hugs to a convicted murderer, Amber Geiger, she set a precedent and issued a license to kill our people within the justice system. Some may see her act and the brother of Botham Jean's willingness to forgive as an act of mercy rooted in Christ-centered love. But to use God in the name of oppression of our people is dangerous and irresponsible. Not even God loved that. If you are a believer, you know he vehemently evoked accountability. And for your lifeblood, I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting from every animal and from each human being too. I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being. Genesis 9:5. It is a privilege to shoot and kill an unarmed man in his own house and receive only 10 years of incarceration. A privilege only white people can receive. I wish I had $1 for every time I witnessed the shucking and jiving of black people apologizing for the very people who got us in our collective predicament in the first place. I don't blame Botham Jean's brother for his grief. It's not for me to say how he should process the loss of such a life. As a human being, I understand forgiveness to be the act of strength, and he has been mourning since the day his brother's life was taken in his living room. It isn't my place to tell him what to do with his pain. But that judge, it was her responsibility to stand for us and hold Amber Geiger accountable with a life sentence, not a hug. Why do we have this fascination with relinquishing forgiveness and love on our oppressors? When the grieving survivors forgave a remorseful Dylan Roof days after he walked into Mother Emanuel AME Church and murdered 9 people, they were lauded. It is a righteous act for sure, but when white people witness us so quick to reckon with our oppressors, it gives the idea that our plight, our struggle to receive equality and due process is less dire. When we get on the stand in courtrooms and issue compassion to evil, it sends a message that it is okay to give those who harm us leniency rather than to face the consequences of their actions. As black people, we constantly demonstrate morality with nothing to show for it in return. The next time we have a barbecue, Becky will not think twice about calling the police on us simply because she's having a bad day. When a black man is charged with murder or takes a life, regardless of the intent, those families don't issue mercy, and neither do these judges. Our people go to jail most of the time for life. There are no hugs, no leniency, no compassion, no mercy. And when it comes to taking a life, too much of the time, they put us in the grave. More than half of the people on death row in this country are people of color, and the disparities that exist within sentencing based on race of defendant and victim are within question. In 82% of studies reviewed, race of the victim was found to influence the likelihood of being charged with capital murder or receiving the death penalty. Those who murdered whites were found more likely to be sentenced to death than those who murdered blacks. That's from the United States Government Accounting Office. Forgiveness without real accountability is not a celebratory act. It is a dangerous display of apologetic insanity. As black people, we have a lot to lose and have gained nothing for falling to our knees of white racists throughout history. Emmett Till's mother, Mamie, didn't put her son's bloated, mutilated body on display in that casket for the nation to see for no reason. She didn't call for forgiveness. She called for justice and put her son's murder on Front Street to save the lives of other black boys and to spark a change. It took something to stir people up and let them know we are either going to stand together or we're going to fall together, Mamie Till said. In order to come to grips with this tragedy, she saw Emmett as being crucified on the cross of racial injustice, said Lonnie Bunch, founder of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. She felt that in order for his life not to be in vain, that she needed to use that moment to illuminate all the dark corners of America and help push America toward what we now call the civil rights movement. We need to be more like Mamie Till and less like accomplices to our own demise. We are constantly displaying integrity in the eyes of adversity, but they don't remember that when we are looking at our lives on the line. They have amnesia when they hand down sentences to our sisters and brothers, and they will issue a shot to kill zones in a minute without thinking twice. Let's stop adding insult to injuries and start standing up for ourselves until circumstances of Black Americans collectively change. We can't afford to be complicit to our struggle any longer. We are dying in more ways than one to systematic racism. Mamie Till later forgave, but first she used the body of her son to demand change. Forgiveness should come after the storm, not before justice. It is not our responsibility to be noble any longer. It's theirs. We have a history of doing so, and it has taken us on a downtrodden road to hell. And that's our Black Fact for today.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic Black facts, our culture, our history, our people on JourneyRadio.com.
And if you would like to sponsor Black Facts, give me a call at 615-554-0568. This is serious business, folks. Blackness with no chaser. By the way, that piece was written by a powerful sister. Her name is Angela Davis from the website Black with No Chaser. And I concur. I'm sorry. I'm not perfect like some of you all out there. I'm not trying to forgive anyone without repentance. Amber Geiger has not repented one time. In fact, if you understood what the judge said to her, this woman didn't even have a Bible. Would you forgive the devil? Because clearly, this woman didn't even have a Bible, so she wasn't even Christian. Wow. Mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Before I get to Judge Tammy Kemp, to highlight what that particular person, Miss Dennis, wrote. Did y'all hear the story about the young brother who was sentenced to jail because he overslept for court service? Did y'all hear that story? The judge, without any question of who he was, sentenced a young black brother to jail because he overslept for jury duty. Now that reminds me, I've been summoned to fill out a survey for a federal crime. I better get that done because I sure don't want to do no federal time for jury duty. But where have we ever heard this? Would this have happened if this was a black person, was a white person? You know the answer to that. I don't even have to tell you that. But Judge John Castronakis sentenced DeAndre Somerville to 10 days because he overslept for jury duty. But apparently, this almighty white judge has had, after a lot of backlash from the community, has had a come to Jesus moment. See, if the judge really gave a damn about black lives, before he sentenced this young man to jail, maybe he would have said, hey, let me dive into this deeper and find out why this young black man didn't show up to jury duty. Because had the judge really looked at Somerville as a human being, as opposed to a black boy or the N-word, maybe the judge would have known that this young man was the drama at his church. Maybe this judge would have known that this young man was a part-time employee of the city and was taking care of his disabled grandfather. Maybe this judge, had he taken some time to see the humanity in that young black male, maybe he would have known that this young black male volunteered for food drives and has helped paint houses for Habitat for Humanity. But no, the judge, he didn't even think about that. He saw a young black male, and I can imagine in his mind that he said, see, that's an irresponsible black boy, and I'm going to teach this black boy a lesson. So I'm going to send him to jail. And not only that, I'm going to give him a criminal record. He has never committed a crime. He has never been under the auspices of the law. But because he did not show up to jury duty, I'm not going to ask why. I'm just going to give him a record. He deserves it because he's a nigger. Hello? I wonder if Judge Tammy Kemp was paying attention to this prior to her going and hugging and consoling and cajoling Amber Geiger. Here's what Judge Castronakis said. Given the abundant of publicity surrounding Mr. Somerville's case, I have concluded that the importance and seriousness of a sworn juror abiding by the law has been made clear. So he used this young black boy as an example to make a point about serving on a jury? Really? You're willing to ruin this young boy's life? I wonder, Judge Castronakis, would you have done that had this been a young white boy? I would argue, based on prima facie evidence throughout this country, you would not have. As a matter of fact, I would love for an enterprising attorney or reporter in Tallahassee, because this is where this took place. I would love for you to do some research on Judge Castronakis. Can you tell me whether or not others have missed jury duty? And what was Judge Castronakis' response to those people? Were they white? Did they go to jail? I'd like to know. I would. I'd like to know. Because you ruined a young black boy. You now have given this young brother a record. Now, he says afterwards, the judge says, as a result, the judge is finding his contempt and sentence of probation for Somerville is vacated and rescinded. Now, before you all jump up and kick your heels, oh, that's great. That's great. But you understand that his records are still in the system, right? You understand that, right? I'm just saying. This is a low-down, dirty shame. This is a low-down, dirty shame. (855-525-5683) is the number. Now let's get to Judge Tammy Kemp, because I'm still smarting over this. Maybe it's just me, but Judge Tammy Kemp has disturbed me. It should have disturbed you, whether you were for or against Amber Geiger. The fact that a judge allowed her religion to come into the trial was disconcerting at best. You know, there is a thing called separation of church and state. There is a thing called separation of church and state. Let me say that one more time, because you know they say when you say something 3 times, it has more emphasis. There is a thing called separation of church and state. If you followed me, you know that I am not for prayer in schools. Not because I'm anti-religious, but prayer doesn't belong in schools. There's a thing called separation of church and state. Maybe you don't know what that means. Maybe you don't understand what that means. It is in this thing. Let me take a moment to digress, because I'm proud of the fact that I know where that comes from. I'm proud of the fact that every chance I get, I like to prove that I know where it comes from. So as I reach down in my backpack to find something that I carry with me every day of my life, because my backpack is everywhere I go. Those of you who are streaming, you see what I'm holding in my hand. It's called the United States Constitution, and something tells me that there is in this book that we in America live by, these are the laws. And it tells me that there is a separation of church and state. I'm not mad at you about your religion. But this book tells me that you can't pray in schools. This book tells me that a judge has to be impartial and cannot be using her religion to determine an outcome of a trial. I wonder now that we've seen what Judge Kemp has done, the fact that she allowed the council doctrine to be placed into evidence, to be used as a defense, was her religion talking to her? I'm just wondering. You know, people say we need more prayer in schools. This wasn't happening when prayer was in schools. Yeah, it was. There was a thing called Jim Crow, and they were praying every day in school. Hello? Here's another reason why I don't like prayer in school. Because I don't want a heathen praying with my child. That's just me. Because there are a lot of heathens that are in our school systems. We talked about one yesterday. The one that beat up, and I do say beat up, the autistic child in Russellville. Hello? That's a heathen. You want her praying for your children, with your children? Hell no. Do you want KKK members praying for your children, with your children? You don't know what those people's backgrounds are. And by the way, the United States was founded on religious freedom. There is no set religion in America, although the majority of Americans are Christian. That's fine. But guess what? You cannot force your religion on me. You understand that, right? If I choose to be agnostic, then that's my choice. If I choose not to go to church, that's my choice. If I choose to be Muslim, Episcopalian, or whatever, or Baptist, or Church of God in Christ, or whatever the case may be, that's my choice. And a school system cannot force their Christian religion on me. What if my child is Muslim? What if my child is Hindu? What if my child is Buddhist? What if all of those religions wanted to pray in school. Are they allowed to do so? Are they allowed to use the intercom system to issue their prayers in whatever perspective culture that they grew up in? Are they? If you say no, then you are a hypocrite. And if you say no, then you don't know about this book that I'm holding. The book I'm holding is not a Bible, it's the United States Constitution. And what the Constitution says is if one prayer is offered in one specific culture, then all prayers should be able to do that. Now, that's what is interpreted by the Constitution. That's why, if you remember a couple of years ago, when they put the 10 Commandments up on the state capitol right here in Little Rock, Arkansas, guess what happened? The devil worshipers were allowed to put a similar edifice on the state capitol. You know why? Because a state has no jurisdiction when it comes to religion. If you're going to put the 10 Commandments up there, then you ought to be able to put the Quran up there, the principles of Ma'at up there, and unfortunately, devil worshipers as well. I'm giving you some background here why Judge Tammy Kemp's actions was so abhorrent. Certainly it was abhorrent to the black community based on the piece that I just read. Oh my God, it was terrible. But more importantly, it was an affront to the Constitution of the United States. Don't care if you're Christian. Don't care if you're in the forgiveness mode. I personally don't care. The only thing that I care about is this document that I'm holding in my hand right now, because this document allows me to be able to sit here on this radio and every day and speak my piece without having my brains blown out. This document allows me to walk down the street without being attacked because of the color of my skin. I represent this document. You may represent something else, but I believe in this document, even though this document wasn't written originally for me. But I believe in this document. And I will defend this document against all parties, foreign and domestic. I believe that if we all knew about this document, we would not be in this predicament right now. We would not have a Donald Trump in the presidency right now. We wouldn't have white supremacists walking around this country as if they own this country. I believe that if everybody knew this document, black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter where you come from. If everybody knew and understood this document, this country would not be in the mess it's in today. It would not. But because of our ignorance and our school systems that continually keep us ignorant, because that's by design. See, you can only control an ignorant people. Now, if you got your panties in a wad saying, oh, David Coleman called me ignorant, if the shoe fit, we can put on a dance recital for you and you can tap dance your ignorance away. This is where we are, folks. It is up to us to educate our own. It is up to us to educate our own. It is up to us to understand the law. Because we've got people bastardizing the Constitution for their own personal benefit. That's what we have right now, ladies and gentlemen. And they can do that because you are an ignorant populace. Don't take it personal. It is up to you, ladies and gentlemen, to get out there and start demanding the rights that you so richly deserve. It's up to you. And as I've sat back and I've thought about this more and more, what Judge Tammy Kemp did was not just an affront to black people, but it was an affront to the Constitution of the United States. And if she's censured or she's taken off the bench, then she deserves it. I know what you're saying. Oh, Dave, that was a black judge. We need all the black judges we can get. After watching that trial, do you think she was thinking in a black mind? Her mind was just as infected with white supremacy as many black people out there. She does not need to be on the bench if she's ruling by her religion and not by the law. And it certainly looked that way to me. I watched as much of that trial as I could and went back and reviewed a lot of it because there was something wrong with this. To me, it just made no sense. How could anyone try to justify walking into a man's home and murdering him? How could we as a society justify walking into a man's home where he was minding his own business, wasn't bothering anyone, and murdering him? How can people even fix their minds to think that somehow or another she was justified? What the hell is wrong with our minds? That's white supremacy. That is called an intellectual racist opinion on murdering black people. We see it every day in our courts. We see it every day when police shoot and kill black people. I was reading a story this morning where a jury is deadlocked because police were called and said that there was a black man who was acting erratic. And this black man was having a mental lapse. He was running around the neighborhood knocking on doors, and he was butt naked. Police were called to the scene. And according to the police officer, and nowadays we know we cannot believe police. I'm sad to say that. According to the police officer, the man ran at him, and he warned the man not to run at him, and he shot and killed a naked man. You say, well, maybe that he had no choice. Yeah, he did. That's why they spent all those thousands of dollars to buy you a taser. You didn't reach for your taser, you reached for your pistol. Here's what you did. You saw a black man. You didn't care about his health. You didn't care about what he might be going through. You just saw a black man and an opportunity to kill him. And right now, for the third day, that jury is in deadlock. He didn't have a weapon. He didn't have a knife. He didn't have a gun. He didn't have a brick in his hand. He was butt naked. But you, as a police officer in DeKalb County, Officer Robert Olson, saw fit that you would be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. This book I'm holding in my hand says you are not allowed to do that. Yet here in America, for some reason, we are allowing police officers to murder people wantonly, and they're getting off scot-free. Now, you might think that, hey, well, they're only killing black folks and it's okay. You might think that. But you know what's going to start happening? They're going to start killing white folks too. Because at some point, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the fact that they can kill black folks and get away with it, you're not too far away from them killing white folks now. Because you set a precedent. And unfortunately, guess what's going to happen? Either a mistrial is going to happen or this cop is going to go scot-free. Y'all remember the case of the black man who was a sitter for an autistic white man, and the white man escaped, and the black man went and got him. Police were called, and the black man was laying on the ground, prone on his back, with his hands straight up in the air, and the police officer shot him. The black man, who was laying on the ground with his hands in the air. And when they went to trial, it was a white jury foreman who went up in earshot of the black defendant and told the white police officer he did everything he could to try to get him off. What's the difference in them and these? What's the difference in these white people who are on these juries, who are acquitting these police officers, and those same white people who were on the jury for the civil rights murders that went on throughout the South? What's the difference? Because we know that those people who were tried for the horrendous lynchings and the murders of many of those black people, those who went to trial got off. Some of them never stood trial. Y'all tell me, do y'all not understand your history, what's going on here? History is repeating itself. It is repeating itself under the color of a badge. Because you have to understand that many of those black people that were murdered during the 60s and the 50s were under the auspices of, guess what? Their local police departments. As a matter of fact, many of those people were in jail and the jail doors were left open. I've read you account after account of where black people were hung and they were kidnapped from the jail. And in some cases, even the police sheriff, the police chiefs, all of them were complicit in the murder of black people. So what Tammy Kemp did, not only did she dishonor our ancestors who fought for her right to sit on that bench, she spat in the eyes of every black person who was murdered and no one was held accountable for. Hello. I told you folks, this bothers me. And the more that I think about it, the more it bothers me. Because see, I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person. And here's one thing I know about Christianity. That before you can even come to Christ, you have to repent your sins. Before Christ will forgive you, you have to repent. Amber Geiger never repented. Not one time. You all correct me if I'm wrong. Please, I admonish you to do so. Throughout that trial, if you watched it the way I watched it, or any recaps that you may have seen, throughout that trial, did Amber Geiger at one point, at any point in that trial, if I missed it, I'm sorry, I missed it. But if I didn't, please help me. At any point in that trial, did Amber Geiger turn to the Botham Jean family and say, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. At any point, did she do that? Did I miss it in my zeal for justice? Did I miss that point? I'm just asking for the next black man who might be murdered on the streets. At any point, did Amber Geiger say, oh, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. At any point, Did Shay do that? I'm just asking the question for a friend, because I don't think she did. So what gave that judge the right to go down and do that? Look, here's the one thing that you all forget, that Botham Jean's mother didn't offer an apology. Botham Jean's mother didn't forgive Amber Geiger. That was Botham Jean's brother, Brent. So if the mother who birthed this child into the world did not forgive Amber Geiger, who the hell is Judge Tammy Kemp to do so? I'm just asking for a friend. I don't have many, but that one friend wants me to ask this question. Amber Geiger, and you're exactly right, Kimberly. Amber Geiger felt that she had done nothing wrong. She walks into a man's house. She murders him. She's at the wrong house. She murders him. He was eating ice cream. She murders him. He was watching TV. She murders him. He was on his computer. She murders him. He was astonished to see an intruder in his home. She murdered him. But Amber Geiger never had 1 ounce of contrition whatsoever. Now you tell me, Judge Kemp. I'm just saying. This bothers me. Maybe I'm the only one. Maybe because am I the only one that understands the Constitution? Forget about the emotional aspect of it. The Constitution alone. Judge Tammy Kemp. I've been planning to play this. Let me just play this. Let's listen to this.
Brent pleaded with her, allowing to hug him, or to hug Geiger, I should say, which the judge allowed after a long pause.
What I was thinking about at that moment was, at the forefront of my mind was Sheriff Brown's policies. And that is generally there's no contact with the defendant. But when he said please a second time, I just could not refuse him. I could not. And so I said yes. I thought they both needed it. And that's why I didn't want to stand in the way of it.
Now, soon after that emotional moment and walking over to hug Jean's family, Judge Kemp walked over to Geiger to talk to her. Judge Kemp says she talked about her with forgiveness, and Geiger requested a hug from the judge twice. A conversation about God led to Judge Kemp giving Geiger her personal Bible, which she retrieved from her chambers.
What I told her was, Grant Jean has forgiven you. Please forgive yourself so that you can live a purposeful life when you get out of prison. She asked me if God would forgive her. And I said, yes, I believe he will. He will forgive you. And then she said, well, I don't even have a Bible. I don't know where to begin. I don't have a Bible. And I just said, I'll get you one. I saw someone who was really, really hurting deeply. And if a hug was going to help her, I had to extend love and compassion to her.
Now, during the trial, the defense tried to get the state's lead investigator, David Armstrong, and a former deputy police chief, Craig Miller, certified as expert witnesses. Both law enforcement officers said, based on the totality of the facts, they believed that Geiger's deadly force was reasonable. Armstrong also said he did not believe that Geiger was guilty of a crime, but Judge Kemp did not allow the opinions of either witness to be heard by that jury. I asked the judge if she believes that decision will trigger an appeal.
I don't know, and I don't want to comment on rulings that took place in the case in particular. I can just say that in cases involving an allegation of self-defense, the standard is for an ordinary and prudent person. You don't need an expert to help an ordinary and prudent person determine a reasonable decision.
Looking back over the trial, Judge Kemp says she would not have done anything differently. She says she'd even hug Amber Geiger again despite facing possible reprimand and also a lot of public backlash. Now, she told me afterwards that following that very public trial and sentencing, she did go attend a previously scheduled retreat, which she tells me it is something that she greatly needed.
That's Judge Tammy Kemp. I don't know what to say. I think she needs to be off the bench. Now, she's not going to end up off the bench, but she should be. Your religion should not come into play when you're on the bench. It certainly doesn't come into play by white judges. I told you the story of Mr. Somerville, who missed jury duty, and a white judge sentenced him for 10 days in jail. Didn't care about his background. Didn't care about his reasoning. Didn't care that he was caring for his disabled grandfather. Didn't care that he played the drums in the church choir. Didn't care about any of that. I bet that judge was religious. I bet Judge Castronekis was religious. He didn't use his religion to feel sorry for Mr. Somerville. So who the hell are you, Tammy Kemp? Who gives you the right to circumvent the Constitution? You need to be censured. You need to be off the bench. You need to be reprimanded because that was out of line. Period. You're right. Kimberly says she's got to go. She has been compromised. One of her biggest cases, and she pulls this mess. I can't wrap my head around it. Neither can I, Kimberly. That's why I'm still talking about it. Maybe you all have let it go, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm happy that you did. But I personally can't let it go. And you should not either. This is an abomination. Black people forgiving white racists. And they still killing us. And they're proud of it. They're doing everything they can to undermine our community. And they're proud of it. And now they're openly doing it. And are you all forgiving them? Maybe I'm just a unicorn out here alone in the wilderness by myself. But this makes no sense to me. Well, maybe you can just go out and kill somebody now and say, hey, I'm a Christian. Forgive me. Don't give me any jail time. You know that's stupid. You know that's ludicrous. But we accept that logic. We've accepted it from Tammy Kemp. We've accepted it from Tammy Kemp's apologist. Amber Geiger didn't even have a Bible, folks. Didn't even have a Bible. (855) 525 5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. We're going to go out and take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio on joinetradio.com.
The law offices of James F. Swindoll provides our clients the personal care and attention that larger law firms cannot offer. Our experienced attorneys have brought hundreds of cases to verdict in state and federal court and recovered millions for our clients. If you or a loved one have been injured or have property wrongfully damaged, we may be able to help. Do not hesitate to contact our firm anytime for a free attorney consultation. Call 1-800-848-1290. That's 1-800-848-1290. Or email inquiries at arkansas-personal-injury.com. Our law offices are centrally located at 212 Center Street in Little Rock. That's the law offices of James F. Swindoll, personal injury and products liability attorney serving Arkansas since 1977.
Mitchell Funeral Home welcomes all of Arkadelphia and Arkansas to connect with a family-owned and operated service provider in Clark County since 1966. At Mitchell Funeral Home, they understand that the funeral is a celebration of a life and legacy, so the entire staff takes great pride in the caring, personal, and professional services they provide. Cremations, funeral planning, burial policy, life insurance, notary, and monument sales are just a few of the services they offer. Flexible packages are available as well. Mitchell Funeral Home appreciates the trust and confidence placed in them and will continue to enhance their services so as to serve you better. Call now. Get connected. 870-246-2611. That's 870-246-2611. Call, click, or come by. MitchellFuneralServices.com. Don't wait till we're needed. Call us now. Let's walk through this together. 870-246-2611. It's quality you can appreciate and service you can depend on at Mitchell Funeral Home.
Hi, this is Alvin from Habibi's 4317 East Broadway in North Little Rock. We still have the green top at your very next stop. The same great service, but more of it. Give us a call, 501-663-1553 or 664-2992, or call our toll-free number, 1-877-HABIBI-1. Diapers, pull-ups, hospital beds, wheelchairs, Simply Fit, diabetic supplies, underpads, and more. Your durable medical supply center.
LeBron James is the greatest player we've seen this generation. You have to be careful when you start saying, he wasn't as good as Michael, or he wasn't as good as Magic. Every generation you get that. You begin to sound like that old man that lives down the street, and every time you walk on his yard, and you even walk by his yard, he's on the porch, and he's got that little crooked finger, he's like, get off my lawn! Get off my lawn! Join the weekly sports magazine every Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. on joinetradio.com. Get off my lawn! You got it. He's the Rock's answer to your aggravation. Joy Network.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert Webb.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of the show. I was just doing a little prep work in the break, and here's another story. Elderly deaf man beaten by cops for 7 minutes for not responding to their yelling. He's deaf. He couldn't hear you. But the cops felt it was okay to beat him. Yeah, he was black. Wonder if Judge Tammy Kemp is familiar with that story. I'm just saying there's too much going on right now for people to be giving, allowing apologies from white racists and accepting it. Wow. Here's a breaking story, by the way, that just popped across my wall. Wow, this happened in Lenoir City, Tennessee. This is on KTHV. A Tennessee soldier was tied up and shot to death in his home. Specialist Jacob Bishop's mother found her son dead Tuesday. The 35-year-old was physically bound and shot multiple times, according to the investigators. Wow. That's crazy. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you want to talk on the show. Appreciate everybody joining me today. Spend most of the first hour talking about Judge Tammy Kemp and the reaction. You know, I watched the clip from The View this morning, and Joy Behar. You know, it's amazing how some people will try to spin stuff, but I respect Joy Behar. She's Jewish. She doesn't bite her tongue. And she, you know, when I guess it was Whoopi Goldberg and whomever else they have on that show, when they talked about the judge, Joy Behar succinctly asked the question, when was the last time we saw a white judge hugging a black defendant? The co-host just kind of skipped over that. Think about that. When was the last time we saw that? Hello? 855-525-5683. It should bother you. It bothers me. It sure does. I don't know why it's bothering me so badly, but it does. It does. All right, so let's talk a little bit this hour about, there was a protest this morning. Let me try to give you all a little advice about your protest, okay? Not sure what they call themselves, but, you know, Dr. Whitfield, Anika Whitfield, has been on the show often, and they are now protesting the takeover of the Little Rock School District. I would say that it's water under the bridge, but bless their protest. Anyway, here's the one thing that you can't do in your protest. And I know you all went, there was an event downtown where Asa Hutchinson's wife was receiving an award. Some of the protesters, I think they went into the award ceremony and they were kicked out. Now, unfortunately for the protesters, you're upset, you should be, but that's not a public place. That's a private business. And that business owner, which was at the DoubleTree, has a right to kick you out. Don't blame the person who did the kicking out. He had no choice. Now, when you're protesting, here's the rights that you do have. You can protest on that sidewalk all day. See, going into that event and protesting, yeah, that makes you feel good, but at the end of the day, those people who decided to give that woman that award, it's pretty clear they don't give a damn about your movement. Because if they did, they wouldn't be giving her an award. I'm just being real, okay? So your protest would gain much more strength if you're outside where people driving by. You're in a tourist area. Just imagine all those tourists that are coming out of the DoubleTree and coming out of the Marriott and walking up and down Clinton Avenue. Those are the ones that you really want seeing your protest, so that when they go back home, they can say, oh, here's what's going on in Little Rock. Inside the building does nothing but disrupt that process. And then, of course, you get kicked out, you're upset, and you should be. But we've got to be smarter about protest, okay? Because at the end of the day, that governor is going to see that protest, because it's going to be all on the media and everything else. But as I've said to you all over and over again, the governor of Arkansas doesn't give a damn about Little Rock. He told Little Rock years ago to kiss his butt. I've said that on this show since I've been back. Doesn't care about Little Rock. He's from Bentonville. His pockets are being lined by Walmart. And Walmart is behind the takeover of the Little Rock schools and the Chamber of Commerce. The regional Chamber of Commerce, not the Little Rock Chamber of Commerce. Even in their name, they don't care about Little Rock. Now, they claim, and that's why when they were pushing this Ford NGL program for schools, when I was participating in it, they claimed that this was for the betterment of the schools. And then it became clear to me that no, this is for the Chamber of Commerce, because you all were responsible, in part, for helping Walmart take over the school system. By the way, do you see those grades that were published last week? So the 3 tiers that the government has proposed, all those F and D schools will be under a different tier. They will not have a school board. They will be governed by one person who reports to the governor, the white overseer. You all do understand that, right? And you all don't have a clue. Parents don't know what's going on. Students don't know what's going on. And some teachers don't know what's going on. The question is, why are so many of those kids in those black neighborhoods failing? Well, number one is that the standardized test that they're using is not even being taught. So the information on the test is not what's being taught in the school, number one. And then number two, standardized test, as we know, has been proven biased. Number three, that part of the deprivation that is going on in those communities where some of those kids emanate is because of the systems that are put in place here in Little Rock and Arkansas proper. The economic deprivation, the drugs, the gangs, and the violence, the lack of economic development in those communities, mothers and fathers who can't get jobs. You remember the story I told you about the Memphis school in North Memphis, in the Fraser area? Y'all remember that story I told you about? It was one of the worst schools in the state of Tennessee. Y'all remember that? And it took a black principal who was previously at a high-performing school to recruit teachers to go to the failing school and turn it around. Now, how did he do that? Because see, there's a story here that we can learn. Because I am of the opinion, now this is just my opinion, but I am of the opinion that before I can save someone, I have to address their needs. Now, I'm not just saying that, I lived that. I've told you about the program I ran in Nashville called Project C. It was support, education, and empowerment. I didn't create the program. It was created by a wonderful lady, a former teacher and principal, Alexine Hamby, who attended the Temple Church, who allowed me to become her program director. Now, what Miss Hamby understood was if I'm going to address the needs of Cumberland View, which is euphemistically referred to as Dodge City, then I have to be in Cumberland View. You get that, right? So what Miss Hamby did was she went to the city, the Metro Housing Authority, and lobbied for them to give her a unit in Cumberland View. Now, that program certainly could have been set up at the Temple Church, which was about a mile or mile and a half away from Cumberland View. The Temple Church could have set that program up and said, hey, all of you people in Cumberland View, come to the Temple Church and we're going to give you tutoring. We're going to feed the kids. But the Temple Church and Miss Hamby knew that would not work. So Miss Hamby decided that, hey, I'm going to go and lobby the state legislature and I'm going to lobby the Metro Housing Authority to give me a unit in Cumberland View. And in that unit, I'm going to give them everything they need, these kids, to be successful. I'm going to tutor them. I'm going to give them computers. This is going to be a learning environment. And as a matter of fact, when they walk in the door, I'm going to feed them. Hello? That's how you turn a situation around. See, because once those kids began to be fed, and I arrived on the scene and they realized that Mr. David was sincere about helping them to be successful, they began to get successful. Some of them had learning disabilities. Some of them had disabilities unbeknownst to them. Some of them had parental disabilities. And what I mean by that, they had parents who were interfering with their education because mama needed them to come home and babysit. But it was my job as Mr. David to go meet mama or daddy and say, hey, look, here's what we're doing at Project C. We need little Johnny here every day, because if he's every day, here are the benefits that he or she will receive. So that principal in Memphis understood that as well. He couldn't understand why so many of those kids were showing up or was not showing up to school. He didn't understand, so he decided on his own dime to do some research, to research some of those kids. And come to find out, one young lady who was highly intelligent but simply couldn't make it to school on time and was subject to study hall and suspension because she was late constantly, he decided to look into her problem. Come to find out that mama was a single mom. She was the oldest. She had 2 brothers and sisters that were also school age that had to ride the bus. And it was her responsibility as a 14-year-old girl to make sure that her 2 siblings, younger siblings, were on the bus. Unfortunately for her, the bus came after her school day started. So after she got her 2 young siblings on the bus, she made her way to school. And come to find out, that's why she was late. The principal realized that. There was another young man that wouldn't come to school, and come to find out that he had a parent who would not wash his uniform. And he didn't want to come to school in a dirty uniform, so he simply would not come when his uniform was dirty. The principal in his research found that out as well and started buying detergent. And if I remember correctly, I think they even opened up a washing area so kids who wanted to wash their school clothes could come and wash their clothes. So why am I bringing this up? Because I would argue that some of those same issues that affected those kids in Tennessee, in Nashville, and Memphis proper are affecting those kids here in Little Rock who are coming from depressed areas of Little Rock. But no one has decided to look into that. Everybody wants to label those kids, those schools, as failing schools. How do we fix that problem? We close the schools. Well, guess what? If those kids are failing in the schools that they are in, they are going to be failing in the schools that you reopen or you send them to. Because this is not an intellectual problem. It's an economic problem that this city must address. But you see, Walmart doesn't care about that because Walmart is in the education business. You understand that, right? Walmart is in the education business. So when you're in business, that means you are there to make money. So I imagine that graduation rates, the more Walmart graduates, the more money that they make, the more that the state kicks back to them. We've seen this failed policy already in Louisiana. Louisiana is a mess because of charter schools. Louisiana is a mess because of charter schools. We've seen this dance, and it's the same old dance. It's kind of like going out to a party, and the only dance people know is the hustle. The hustle that we were doing back in the 70s. They're still, or the roller coaster, I guess that's what y'all call it now. It's the only thing they know. Just like this city, just like this governor. All he knows is close the schools. But he's not doing it at the behest of parents and teachers so that they can make a better school system. He's doing it at the behest of Walmart so that Walmart could make money and continue to fund his campaign. Selling our children. Selling our children. I hate to say it, but I don't think Little Rock will ever get a school board back. Don't be fooled that, they're getting limited school. Look, a school board governs all the schools in a district. It's not a 3-tier approach. This is by design. Another way to make money off of your poor black children. So what we've got to learn to do, those of you who are on the front lines, what we've got to learn to do is fight smarter. What we've got to learn to do is be proactive and not reactive, as many of us are. What we've got to understand is that the only way that we're going to fix this problem is that we're going to fix it ourselves. The governor doesn't give a damn about black children. If he did, he would have sentencing reform. If he did, he wouldn't be building a private prison in Southeast Arkansas. If he did, he would allow educators to fix this school problem. He doesn't care, folks. It's time for you to understand that. And how do you deal with someone who doesn't care about what you care about? In the case of the governor, you vote him out. Recently, the mayor proposes a school board. Here's what he just said for Frank Scott. I guess this article was published yesterday. The Little Rock mayor on Monday proposed returning local control to the city schools after a state plan to only grant limited authority sparked fears that the district could revert to a racially divided, separate but equal system 62 years after the desegregation of Central High. This is why, and if Mayor, if you're listening to this is why you need to be very, very succinct and steadfast in how you pursue this. Mayor Frank Scott proposed forming a temporary school board appointed by the city and state to run the district until January, from January until a local board election in November. Arkansas has been in control of the 23,000 student district since January 2015, when the district was taken over because of low test scores in several schools. We want full and complete control of Little Rock School District, Scott said at a news conference at City Hall. Any plan that separates any schools from LRSD denies agency for the very students, teachers, and families who must take ownership of their schools if they are to thrive. Scott asked the State Board of Education to take up the proposal when it meets next week and said he also has discussed it with Asa Hutchinson and Education Secretary Johnny Key. The State Board last month approved a plan to return only limited control to the district, with a local board elected in November. Under the state's plan, several predominantly minority schools labeled as failing by the state would be run under a different leadership than the board. The plan has prompted comparisons to the 1957 crisis. Hutchinson stopped short of saying whether or not he'd support Scott's proposal. He said the State Board and Education Department would carefully evaluate the mayor's comments. It is always good news when the city is supportive of the school district, as if the city has never been, according to Hutchinson, as if they've never been. While the state has the ultimate responsibility under our Constitution, it takes many partners for a school district to be successful. Here's why you should be concerned, Mayor Frank Scott, because this is going to fall in your lap. There's a certain irony to the fact that a newly elected black mayor might end up with segregated schools under his watch. Hello? This is why you and that city board should have been awakened a long time ago. But see, we understand that the city board is just as racist as the governor of Arkansas. And the city board has no special interest in making sure that the schools are supported. If they did, when the takeover took place, there should have been an outcry from the board and that current mayor. There was not. As I've stated to you personally and publicly, Mr. Mayor, is that the only way out of this is a lawsuit. The city of Little Rock should sue the state of Arkansas, because the state of Arkansas has not been playing with clean hands. That's the only way that this can be halted. It is pretty clear that the fix is in from your Republican governor, that he wants to destroy the school system in Little Rock. If I were the mayor, which I'm not, I would be talking with NEA, I would be talking with AEA, and I would be talking with the ACLU, the NAACP, the Urban League, and I would jointly file a massive lawsuit against the state of Arkansas. In fact, that should have been done a long time ago. As I said, this city has no leadership. This city board has done little to support the schools in Little Rock, or the teachers for that matter. The only way out of this is a lawsuit. The question is, who has the courage in Little Rock to file that lawsuit? Is there one? Is there one? I'm just asking for a friend. Do you know that friend? 855-525-5683 is the number. Now, for the rest of the show, I want to talk about economic development. And I want to tell you how a feud with two black icons has been put to rest, finally. I'm going to tell you again how a feud between two black icons have been put to rest. Now, I will tell you that I am not a Tyler Perry fan. I will tell you that I have not, I'm probably one of the few who has never, ever watched a Tyler Perry movie on purpose. Let me tell you why. I think the emasculation of black males are in full effect in Hollywood. You see, look, there's a reason why Denzel Washington has never put on a dress. If you read some of the accounts of the black male actors, they will tell you that the first thing that Hollywood agents want you to do is one of the things when you begin to get popular is dress up like a woman. It's the first thing they want you to do. They want to see you in drag. Go back and look at some of those brothers who in Hollywood, after they dressed up in drag, where are their careers now? So I'm not a fan of Madea. I thought it was stereotypical. I thought it was an insult to black women, black mothers. And I wasn't going to see it. I wasn't going to spend one dime on Tyler Perry. But I have to admit that Tyler Perry has done a lot of wonderful things for black people. He really has. So even though he's made his money, he hasn't turned his back on black people. And this past weekend, Tyler Perry opened up a 330-acre studio in Atlanta. It's built on a Confederate Army base. Now, I do question, if it's built on a Confederate Army base, who gets that money that you bought that land for? I hope it goes to the state of Georgia, but I don't know. Something else to ferret out. And all kinds of black stars came to Atlanta for this opening. It has 12 sound stages. But the great thing about it that all of those stages bear the names of great black stars of the past. People like Oprah Winfrey, Whoopi Goldberg, Denzel Washington, Diane Carroll, Will Smith, Halle Berry, Della Reese, John Singleton, Sidney Poitier. But one other star that has a sound stage, his name is Spike Lee. Now, if you've been following Spike Lee, you know Spike Lee has been in Tyler Perry's stuff about the types of movies that he makes. In fact, Spike Lee said the Madea franchise was nothing more than coonery and buffoonery. And he's right. Now, look, Tyler Perry made that's his bailiwick. He made millions of dollars off of Madea. But again, I agree with Spike Lee. It was nothing more than coonery and buffoonery. Now, don't get mad at me. We have different tastes. But most of the brothers that I know that are conscious, they haven't watched much of Madea either. But the fact of the matter is that Tyler Perry, regardless of what you like and what I like, there are millions of people who liked what Madea was doing, and Tyler Perry decided to put his money where his mouth is in the black community in East Atlanta. Think about all the black people that are getting jobs because of Tyler Perry now. I respect you for that, Tyler. But the point I'm making about this story is that even now, when Spike Lee said that the Madea franchise was nothing more than coonery and buffoonery, it was Tyler Perry who decided to name a stage after Spike Lee. Now, how many of you all would have done that? Be honest. How many of you all would have paid homage to someone who called your mission crap? Not many of you black folks. Some of y'all get mad at someone because they looked at you funny, whatever funny is. Or because they didn't speak to you this morning. Or because they didn't say that the dress or the pair of shoes you have on look good. How many of you all would have done that? I have a different respect for Tyler Perry. That doesn't mean I'm going to start going and see Madea movies. I'm not. Because Tyler Perry in the past have always made movies that made men in a bad light. I hope that's changing. If there's a movie out there that shows a black man in a positive light by Tyler Perry, let me know. I'd love to watch it. But in the past, the movies by Tyler Perry have always painted black men in a negative light. So no, I wasn't going to support Tyler Perry. But I will applaud him as a black male who knows how to bury the hatchet for black people. In fact, Spike Lee was at the ceremony. So Tanya said Daddy's Girl is a positive black role model. Is that the only one? How many movies has Tyler Perry made? Is that the only one? And you know what, LaTanya, you say Tyler got more money than Spike and he not asking nobody to fund his film. That's true. But Tyler Perry would not have that money if not for Spike Lee. You understand that, right? That's why Tyler Perry donated that soundstage or named that soundstage after Spike Lee. Because he understands. He understands the groundwork that Spike Lee laid for him. Let's look at it from this perspective. Most of us today have more money than the people that fought in the 60s for civil rights. That doesn't make us better than them. And some of us who made money off the backs of them will not go back and pay homage to those people who fought and died. And your little penance could only be making sure that you take your ass to the polls to vote. But some of us won't even do that. Now, why am I talking about this story? Because if these two moguls, movie moguls, great minds, who have sought to who have sought to, well, look, here's the bottom line. Spike Lee certainly have tried to put black people in a positive light. I've seen every one of Spike Lee's movies. I've never seen a movie by Tyler Perry. I've never seen a sitcom. I've never seen anything, because after I realized what this brother was about, I'm just not going to be party to that mess. But he's doing some good things, and I think he's coming around, and I can give him a chance, just like he gave Spike a second chance. And just like Spike Lee apparently gave him a second chance. Here's Tyler Perry. He says that any bad blood between them had to take a backseat to honoring Spike for paving the way for black filmmakers. Hello? You understand what I'm saying here? He said he and Spike has sit down and iron out their differences. Look, I can disagree with you vehemently about a particular cause, but we can still be friends if there's truth in that friendship. I like my listeners to disagree with me. I don't hate you because you do. I would love for white supremacists to call this show. I'd love to have Republicans to call this show. I'd love to have Democrats to call this show. Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I hate you. It takes a higher intellectual mind to be able to disagree with someone and still respect them. Yes, they are on different planes, Tanya. But at the end of the day, if not for Spike Lee, Tyler Perry may not be here today. Robert says he has some other than Medea that are positive. Name them for me. I'd like to see them. I respect what this brother is doing. I respect how he's changed the landscape in Atlanta and how he's employing black actors who couldn't get jobs in Hollywood. In his interview, he talks about Hollywood doesn't even respect him. They wouldn't give him the time of day. So he built his own. See, there's a story behind this. That's what I'm getting to, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that when they tell you no, as they've always told black people no, then you can change that dilemma by making your own and supporting your own. Where would Tyler Perry be if black people didn't support Medea? No, I'm not going to watch the Browns either. I've seen that. Sorry. Where would Tyler Perry be if black people didn't support Medea? You all understand that Tyler Perry is a director, but you know what Tyler Perry is as well? Tyler Perry is a businessman. So, shock and all, if you're supporting Medea, that means that you are supporting a black business. So if you can support that black business, why can't you support other black businesses? I promise you that when Medea or when Tyler Perry first started touring, everything wasn't up to snuff. Everything wasn't okay. But you know what? Y'all kept going back. See, there's a story to this. Is that, yes, black people can agree to disagree and still respect one another, as Tyler Perry respected Spike Lee, and as Spike Lee now respects Tyler Perry. And black people do support black businesses. That's what Tyler Perry is. And if we want to change our neighborhoods, then we have to support black businesses. That's the bottom line on it. So we can learn from this dust up between two media moguls, is that, yeah, we can disagree with our art, how you address our community and how I address our community, but together we are more powerful. Wouldn't it be wonderful if Spike Lee did a movie in Atlanta? I'll go check those out, Robert. Appreciate that. Wouldn't it be wonderful if Spike Lee did a movie on Tyler Perry's soundstage? I'm just asking. That's what needs to happen. We can use this as an example. Whatever that's going on in your community, why you don't support black businesses, use Tyler Perry and Spike Lee as your guide. I dare you. What are you afraid of? Success? Is that what we're really afraid of? Is black people afraid of success? Are we so envious and jealous that if we support another black person and that person gets to come up, then he'll leave us behind? Yeah, I know people do that, but not everybody. I applaud Tyler Perry, and I look forward to him making more movies other than movies that portray black males in a negative light. I'm going to tell you like this. This is just me personally. I don't care for movies that have black men in drag. That's just me. You can call me homophobic. Well, let me put it this way. I don't care for movies that put black men in drag who are straight in the movie as comic relief. You know what I'm saying? I don't care for that. You know, one of my favorite shows of all time is In Living Color. And one of the funniest skits is David Allen Greer and the Wayans brother who portrays men on film. But you know, every time I watched it then, I was uncomfortable. I just was. And you can say, well, you worried about your masculinity? No. My last masculinity is solid. Tanya, what you're doing is the other thing. Okay, yeah, I agree. I'm going to talk about Wesley Snipes in a moment when you talk about, now that you bring up John Singleton. Okay? But it's just me. I'm uncomfortable with it. So I'm really not going to go and watch a movie or a play that portrays black men in drag to hide or to deceive. Remember the movie White Chicks by the Wayans brothers? Hated that movie. I'm glad I never went to the movies to see it. In fact, I remember back in the day, it was on video and I rented it. And I never watched the whole movie. Just couldn't watch it. I'm not getting into movies where it portrays black men in a bad light. I've told you over and over again that, hey, I'm sick of movies that come out that show black men that are drug dealers. That's in the hood. Only way they can get out of the hood is sell crack or cocaine. I'm tired of those movies. Part of the reason that I don't like rap music is that's what it portrays. Is that, hey, you got to be on lean and Molly. You got to be a hardcore. You got to chase hoes. You got to have 15, 20 women. You got to have women shaking their butts in front of you. That's a bad image that black men have to deal with. I'm not into that either. So I'm not relegating my comments to just Tyler Perry showing black males in a negative role. This is all movies that show black males that way. I know what you're saying. Well, that's reality. No, it's not reality. That's someone's interpretation of reality. So I want positive movies. I want to see black men in positive environments. I want to see black men and women on screen loving one another, making love to one another. I want to see, one of my favorite movies by Spike Lee, believe it or not, was Crooklyn. Y'all remember the movie Crooklyn? It was actually about a black family in Brooklyn struggling. A black father and a black mother with 3 kids. Love that movie. It wasn't one of Spike's great movies, but it was about the average black family, their everyday lives. Those are the types of movies that we should be wanting to see, that we're taking our children to. Because, see, the most powerful weapon that we have in America, I'm going to see Harriet too. The most powerful weapon that we have in America is the media. The media changes minds. The media controls minds. The media molds minds. And if we can get black filmmakers to make movies that are positive about black people, about black families, about black mothers, about black fathers, about black children, we could change this overnight. Yeah, that School Days was, I'm going to tell you folks, School Days was probably Spike Lee's best movie. I know a lot of you might say, I'm going to do the right thing. Think about when Do the Right Thing was made. What did it surround? Radio Raheem being killed by police on some BS. And those police getting off. What about Cornbread Earl and Me? Have y'all seen Cornbread Earl and Me? Cornbread Earl and Me was done back in the 70s. I remember going downtown to the Center Theater to see Cornbread Earl and Me. I don't remember crying as badly for any movie as I did when they killed Cornbread. Ask Larry Fishburne about Cornbread Earl and Me. He was one of the stars in that movie. I'm just simply saying we have to be responsible for our own people in everything that we do. In radio and television, Coolie High was a good one too. We have to be responsible. Actually, I didn't see Cornbread Earl and Me at the Center. I saw it at the Arkansas Theater. That used to be right there on Louisiana, Capitol in Louisiana. Y'all didn't know that used to be a theater right there, did you? Real quickly, a couple other quick points I want to make today. Wesley Snipes, I don't know if you all know that New Jack City is having a reboot. Wesley Snipes came out and said he's not happy with that. Hello? Wesley Snipes, who starred in New Jack City, said that he's not happy with that reboot. Why would Wesley Snipes be upset about the sequel? Well, let's see what he says. In a talk show on Shadow and Act, it was announced that New Jack City was going to be a reboot. His response, I'm not associated with it, I have nothing to do with it at all. When pressed about specific feelings on the flick, I think some things need to be left alone if it worked at the time under the circumstances. And the story was built around things that are current. I don't particularly like the idea of recreating the drug culture. For what? I don't know. They actually talked to me about doing it, and I told them no. If I had a dime for every time I said no, it's a dumb deal. It's a wrap. That movie was impactful. We all saw it. I think that movie was, along with gangster rap, New Jack City was one of the most iconic yet detrimental things that Hollywood could have ever done to the black community, because they glamorized crack. We had people cheering for Nino Brown in the theater that I went to. I'll never forget it. This incorrigible drug dealer, crack dealer, who was destroying lives and neighborhoods, and people were cheering him. So I applaud him for not taking the role. A lot of people have said, man, Dave, you need to watch Snowfall. Nah, no. I don't need to watch the inner workings of the drug world. I just don't. There's nothing Snowfall, and maybe because I've been so close to it, I've had so many people in my community, so many people in my family to be destroyed because of the drug culture, crack cocaine, the streets. No, I don't want to see Snowfall. Ain't nothing thrilling about that to me. Before we go, I want to talk about one other story that relates to everything that we're talking about. Let me read this story to you. This was published on the 23rd of September. Consider this stat. Over the past year, women started an average of 1,817 new businesses per day in the U.S. That now represents 42% of nearly 13 million businesses overall, which employ 9.4 million workers and generate a revenue of $1.9 trillion. And while these female founders come from diverse backgrounds, black women make up the biggest portion of them, according to the State of Women-Owned Business Report. Women of color account for 89%, that's 1,625 of the new businesses opened every day over the past year. This number has grown faster than the overall rate of new women-owned businesses in the past 5 years, 21% versus 43%. The number of firms owned by black American women grew by African American women grew faster, even faster, at 50%. This is despite the fact that revenue is decreasing. The average declined 3% from 67,800 in 2014 to 6,500 in 2019. Minority women are more likely to have a side hustle, according to the report. Over the last 5 years, the number of women with side hustles has increased to 39% compared to a 21% average of entrepreneurship. Among minority women, it's even higher, 65% compared to 32%. These entrepreneurial ventures are concentrated in 3 sectors: service businesses like hair and nail salons and pet care, healthcare and social assistance, and professional technical service like lawyers and bookkeepers. Now, why is that important? You want to save our community? Then we got to have businesses in our community. Number one, see, I did it this way for a purpose. I told you about the Spike Lee and Tyler Perry makeup because number one, what we have to do is that we got to forgive our brothers and our sisters for the pains that they may have caused us. And even though you weren't the initiator, you have to forgive our brothers and sisters. I'm not talking about what Tammy Kemp did. We have to forgive our brothers and sisters and walk together on a path of enlightenment and economic power. Because I just know that Spike Lee and Tyler Perry is going to come out with something here real soon. I don't know it for a fact, but I just got a feeling. But more importantly, we have to support black businesses. We have to support our sisters who are leading the charge for economic viability in our black communities. Brothers, if you can't do it, support a sister who's doing it. Sisters, if you can't do it, support a brother who's doing it. Here's how we got to get this done. We have to be able to do this for ourselves. This is about rebuilding our own communities. This is about empowering our children. If you would have heard Rizal Aaron's show earlier, you would have heard the young lady from the Hispanic community who talked about how their business, her brother started in their business when he was 3 years old. This is what we have to do, folks. See, I can look at another community and use their morals and values to make my community better. After all, they've been doing it with our community for decades. That's how we do this thing, man. We have to come together. We have to come together. You're right. Asians help Asians. Hispanics help Hispanics. Arabs help Arabs. White people help white people. Black people help everybody else but black people. If we're going to change the disposition of our schools, our neighborhoods, our communities, then we're going to have to start helping each other. Hey, I'm sorry, it is not racist to support black businesses. I'm sorry, don't believe that hype. Don't believe that lie. It's just not. And guess what else it'll do? It'll keep your kids out of the street. Because here's what the street will tell your kids. I will kidnap you, raise you, then return you to your family so they can bury you. Sincerely, the streets. Y'all have a great day. That's Black Focus Radio for the day. We'll see you tomorrow at noon to 2 p.m. right here on JoyNetRadio.com.
You got it. East Rock's answer to your aggravation. Joy Network. You got it. The Joy Network.